talking about the brain gut connection. I will also hear the term brain gut axis. Can you define that for the listeners?
And I think we are calling it like disorders of gut brain interaction, diseases of gut, it's DGBI, it's changed, but it's kind of the same concept, right? The gut brain axis is a communication between your central nervous system, so the brain and the spinal cord, and your enteric nervous system. Those are the nerve endings, basically the brain in your gut, right? Basically the nerve cells in your gut. And it's basically a highway. It's a two-way, going east and going west, or going north and going south. It is a bidirectional highway, which means your thoughts and stress can affect your gut, and the microbes and inflammation in your gut can influence your mood, clarity, and energy. And that's that interplay, that's that connection. And I think when a lot of people talk about gut health, they kind of think about the microbiome a little bit, right? We're thinking more and more about that. It's like basically an ecosystem. It's like a forest, right? And this forest is basically composed of almost 40 trillion bacteria, viruses, parasites, archaea, um, and fungi in your gut. And they basically grown with you over these years. And they're different amounts and different families and species and different strains that do completely different things. And what's really important about these microbes is that we don't exist without them.
You mentioned something that was really interesting to me. You mentioned gut brain access and that highway that goes back and forth. How is it sending messages back and forth? I think it has to do something with the vagus nerve, but I'd love to hear more about like research there and some background.
Yes, 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 yes. So on that highway, just imagine cables going front and back, like thick white cables, right? From the brain stem going down all to the spine. And yes, that main cable structure is the vagus nerve, really important. And
Hmm.
that is bidirectional as well, right? But the vagus nerve can actually detect and adjust to temperature of liquids going down your throat. Yeah, like
Wow.
if you drink something really hot, it can adjust and detect, right? Because it can tell like, oh, this is really hot and my body has to adopt to let this go down, or it's really hot and I have to reject it. So it can adopt to temperature, it can adopt to distension. So any swelling or stretching of the lumen of the stomach, of the gut, really important. And all of that affects motility as well. So
Mm.
if your gut is, for example, producing too much gas, your vagus nerve can signal that back to the brain and say, hey, there's over distension happening here. There's abdominal pain, cramping. There's what we call heightened visceral sensitivity, right?
Mm.
There's a lot more messaging actually from the gut to the brain than vice versa. A lot of the messaging is going from the gut to the brain. Serotonin is an important neurotransmitter. Dopamine, GABA, and acetyl-CoA are all produced in the gut, and they help not just with motility and digestion, but they also help regulate inflammation all through this connection, this superhighway of the vagus nerve, right? So there's that two-way street is very important, especially from what's generated in the gut itself.
When I think about serotonin and dopamine, I think about mood. And it's so interesting the connection between the gut and mood. And I'd like to hear a little bit more
Yeah.
about your experience with that, what some of the research is saying about the gut bacteria mood connection.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's always great to take it back to a clinical case. I remember working with a wonderful patient of mine in her maybe mid 40s, and she'd been suffering for 5 years with a lot of
Mm.
IBS-like symptoms. And she was extremely anxious. And I would say, yeah, I think she was actually depressed. She was extremely irritable. She was very frustrated. And I think for a couple of reasons. One, she could only eat 10 foods.
Yeah.
She had restricted her food so much that that made her frustrated. I mean, that would make me hangry. Like, she could barely, yes, function because she was so particular about the types of foods that she had to incorporate into her diet. And we worked with her for approximately maybe 6 months
Hmm.
and got her to a place where she was eating everything but 5 foods. So
Wow.
she was able to just open up her diet and start reincorporating foods into her diet. Her affect changed 100%. Like she was a different person. If you look at people who have mental, some dysregulation in their mental state, and you look at the microbiome, Those who are missing these microbes have symptoms like anxiety and depression, and those who have like an enriched microbiome with these particular strains have mental wellness.